Alright, so picture this. You and your team move into a big house. The idea is to grind games, bond, make content 24/7. It sounds like the dream. Now fast forward a few months and half of the team hates each other, the house is a mess, and assuming you don't have a manager, nobody's sure who's supposed to pay the internet bill this month. Yeah, team houses are great in theory, but they usually end up being more of a reality show than a productive setup.
I did! This is your shit, I'm not carrying your shit. My hands are full. No, because you took the bottles.
What do you think of all this? They just started fighting.
And today, I kind of want to talk about why that is. Team houses are supposed to be like a creator's paradise of sorts. You're living with your teammates, plotting together, hanging out together, and cranking out content together. Now the grind will be easier because everyone's on the same page, pushing towards the same goal. It sounds great, you get closer as a team, you build chemistry, and you start to think the house may even turn into one of those YouTube empires. AMP, FaZe Clan, OpTic Gaming, they've made it look really appealing. Just a group of friends grinding and having fun. But unfortunately, the reality is usually, not that.
Get that shit out of my face. How about that?
So here's where the whole team house concept starts to fall apart. You move in expecting a constant grind and a perfect synergy with your team, but then you realize living in the same space with so many people comes with a few complications. First off, you have to remember that boundaries basically stop existing. It's pretty hard to leave work at work when you fall asleep and wake up to the same faces every single day. If someone's having a bad day, there's no more leaving VC or voice chat. You're stuck with that vibe all day and all night. Yo, what's up, bro?
Yo, we not doing the bit, bro. You ain't telling me shit to say.
Alright, I guess I'll join later.
Bro.
Then of course, there's personality clashes.
Punch it like a wooden door into the master bedroom because he was so mad at me. And he put a hole in it. A wooden door. Not like some that's like plywood. This was thick.
Spending enough time with anyone, no matter how cool you think they are, you'll eventually get on each other's nerves. It could be something as small as not doing dishes or hogging the bathroom. But multiply that by 5 or 6 people and you've got a ticking time bomb. And let's not forget the financial side. Sharing rent and bills sounds simple enough until someone's card gets declined or one person decides they don't owe as much because they're not using the living room. Believe me, money drama can split a team faster than a broken spawn trap. Distractions are another big one. Sure, you're all there to grind, but it's easy for that environment to turn into more of a party house. You know, you got late night hangouts, random guests, blasting music at 2 a.m. It can derail any serious work schedule if someone doesn't set rules. Finally, there's a lack of personal space. Even if the house is huge, living on top of each other for months can drain your mental energy fast. You start missing quiet moments or just not having to answer "what's up" every time you walk to the fridge. Take AMP for example. Everyone loves their pranks until you realize fireworks inside the living room can turn a simple day into a landlord or a roommate's nightmare.
Just trying to react to videos. Fuck. Well, this house is cooked, Jack. The furniture in this house is cooked. Everything is fucking cooked, bro. Because niggas wanna go to war fucking bad.
It's hilarious on camera, but eventually someone has to pay the bill for the damage. Plus, trying to focus on a 3-hour stream when your roommate is staging a fake police raid next door, it's a recipe for chaos and a big reason why these houses rarely last long term. So yeah, in theory, a team house is this magical place where everyone gets to hang out and grind together, but in practice, you're lucky if half the boys even want to stick around after a few months. Now, before I condemn every gaming house ever, it's worth noting that a handful actually did alright. The ones that thrived usually had one thing in common, being structure. I know that's not exactly the sexiest word in the world, especially to gamers, but it's what keeps a house from turning into a free-for-all. Like in OpTic's case, they had Hecz and his wife. They made sure things at the house were getting done, and Hecz would even fine the players if they didn't look after the house.
The toughest part was keeping it clean. That's why I enacted the $250 fine, you know, $250. If I found a garbage somewhere, I charge $250 to be your garbage man.
They had rules like dedicated work hours, quiet hours, and chore rotations, so no one could hide behind, "It's not my job to take out the trash." There was a clear leader making sure rent got paid, schedule stayed on track, and people didn't turn the living room into a rave at 3 a.m. Some of these houses were backed by well-funded organizations that could help afford decent housing, proper equipment, and maybe even a chef or a cleaning crew. That might sound over the top, but it minimized a lot of potential conflicts, and the result? Less bickering, more productivity, and more content being pushed out. So yeah, it's not impossible for a team house to work, it's just extremely rare without tight systems in place. It's worth pointing out that the team house landscape looks a lot different now than it did, say, back in 2014. If you take a look at OpTic in their early days, sure, they had some legendary moments in the original house, but it was basically a bunch of guys winging it. Chores, bills, privacy. No one really had the blueprint on how to make a gaming house run smoothly, a story that many members from the OpTic house at the time tell to this day.
We were like figuring things out as we went in there because you guys were so close together in the setups that we didn't take into account that there was going to be echo. More importantly, we didn't take into the account that, you know, obviously if everybody pushes stream at the same time, there's still going to be a different delay because of the connectivity of the internet.
Right. We kind of jumped in, like we were building the plane while we were flying. I didn't have a ton of foresight. I wasn't sure if it would all come together, but.
Compare that to AMP and the new FaZe house setups. These groups took cues from the old failures and tried to structure things a bit more. It might not be perfect, but you see them addressing some of those classic pitfalls, like having dedicated spaces set up for pranks versus serious content, or enlisting help from managers to handle finances and schedule chaos. That's not to say everything is sunshine in these new houses, but it's definitely more refined. They've seen what happens when you shove a bunch of players and creators under one roof without planning. Now you'll find some actual coordination behind the scenes. It's less, we're just a bunch of friends living together, and more, we're running a full-time content machine, and also maybe pulling the occasional firework prank. So yeah, if you look at AMP or the newer FaZe setups, they still have their fair share of noise complaints and random chaos, but at least there's some organization. And usually these groups have enough bread to cover the landlord's potential therapy sessions and destruction of property fees if things go sideways. So what can we learn from all of this? If you're dreaming about a team house or living with all the boys, just remember it's one thing to watch the FaZe house vlogs, and it's another thing entirely to wake up in that environment every day. Take 100 Thieves, for example. Instead of cramming everyone into one house, they invested in an entire training compound. The players come in for practice, team meetings, content shoots, but at the end of the day, they head home and do their own thing. There's minimal taking out the trash drama, cleaning the dishes, and there's just maximum focus for those people at home. Even OpTic had tried a similar route with the Hex Quarters, which acts like a headquarters / boot camp. It's a centralized facility where everyone can grind together, but they don't have to worry about living under one roof and dealing with roommate arguments at 2 a.m. It's a bit more structured and it's a lot less headache on everyone. In other words, you gotta think about balance. Constantly being on can burn you out. And if you're living with your teammates, you can't exactly shut the door on them unless you want to come off like a total recluse. A little space can actually help keep your team together in the long run. At the end of the day, team houses might look cool on camera, but behind the scenes, they're often more trouble than they're worth. If you can make it work, congrats, you're one of the lucky few. But for most people, it's not the fairy tale setup you see on social media. Anyways, that's my take. Let me know if you'd ever live in a gaming house or if you've lived in a similar situation and have any roommate stories of your own. I'm sure there's some horror stories out there that I would love to read and reply to down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. All the support recently has been insane, and if you liked the video, please feel free to leave a like and maybe subscribe for more weekly content every Monday at 3 p.m. EST. And we're on the road to 700 subscribers. Join the mob. I love y'all so much. Thank you guys so much. And that being said, OBA3 house win.